with the last slide. We're going to talk about parking. Since everybody's hot button, it seems like the further we got into this thing, parking was a big deal too. So we're addressing that as well. So what I'm going to start with talking a little bit about the jail. First of all, this is like a section. If you took the Hall of Justice building and the existing jail and this new addition we're going to put across Pine Street, and just put a slice through it and looked in the side of the building and said, well, what's in these various buildings? That's what this diagram is. And I'll concentrate on the bottom diagram because it represents the entire jail project, which the county is recommending to do the entire project. We've talked about, for bidding purposes, doing a base bid and some alternates. And basically, the only reason we're considering doing alternates is so we can define a specific price for specific parts of the project, because there may be specific funding opportunities for certain parts of these projects and so forth. So if we know what the value of them is specifically, it makes it a lot easier. So from a jail standpoint, the project is we are doing an addition and renovation to the existing jail. And so the way that the building's going to lay out is this tall building is the Hall of Justice. It's a 6-story building plus a basement. Right now, in the basement of the Hall of Justice is 160 jail beds in 2 dormitories. One of the goals of the jail committee, was get rid of those beds out of the Hall of Justice. We don't want them in there anymore. So this will accomplish that. And what we will be putting in the Hall of Justice, in the basement of the Hall of Justice, is the sheriff's office. So basically, in the basement of the Hall of Justice, the basement of the existing jail, and portions of the first floor of the existing jail, we will consolidate all the sheriff's office functions. Right now, the sheriff is in the Hall of Justice. There's people out in the existing jail. There's people out in the Oak Street, and we're going to consolidate those locations into one place. So that'll be an operational advantage for the sheriff's office. Then the existing building is actually a basement plus 3 stories. And these top 2 floors, the second and third floors that are yellow, this gold, that letter G there, letter G, those are going to be renovated. We're going to completely gut the interior of that building. We'll keep the structure, we'll keep the exterior of the building, but everything else is coming out. All the walls, all the mechanical, all the electrical, everything, because everything has gotten to the end of its useful life in that building. And also, it's a linear shaped jail, which is back in the 60s and 70s when that jail was built. That was the state of the art at the time. But we don't do linear jails anymore because they're difficult to observe, very difficult to manage and supervise. So we're going to scrape all that out, and we're going to build dormitories on those top 2 floors. And then the first floor of the building will be a combination of the administrative areas to the jail, like the corrections administration, the public visitation area, and some functions of the sheriff's office. And then across Pine Street, and I'll have plans in a little while, we're going to build basically a 3-story building. It'll be 3 stories in height, but it'll operate as 2 floors. Because the housing component, there's going to be 302 beds in a single housing pod on the second floor in a mezzanine, and I'll have photographs of what that looks like on the upper level. And on the first floor, we're going to build an entirely new booking, intake, and processing center where arrestees are brought in and held for a period of time. And that will have a capacity of 60 inmates. So we can properly process and classify arrestees and prisoners and such. And then we're going to have a new kitchen and laundry, which is sorely needed. How many of you have a kitchen on an upper floor of your house? Not very practical, is it? Well, your jail has the kitchen on the 3rd floor. And it has had for 40 years. Not very practical, so we're going to fix that. So on the lower level, we have a new kitchen, new laundry, new medical services component for the inmates, and the booking and processing. So, conceptually, this is how the building is going to lay out. So from a plan standpoint, this is a site plan showing where the jail is going to be built. The jail will be, well, let me orient you a little bit. This is the Hall of Justice across the street over here. This is the existing jail. This is Pine Street running here. And this is the parking lot across east of Pine Street. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this addition east of Pine Street. This is the first floor. Again, this is the intake and processing center. There will be a new vehicular sally port where in-custody arrestees come into the building. In custody, the sheriff's office, the police department, or whatever will park in here, process prisoners, and then they'll leave. And the kitchen and the medical component. There will be a service yard for deliveries and things like that. Food, water softener, salt, things of that nature here. And then this block here represents the potential for a future expansion. One thing we've learned over the years is we never want to paint you into a corner. You know, all the trials and tribulations you have to go through to get this project done, you don't want to have to do, you want to make it easier next time if there's ever a need to expand, you want to make it easy. So that would be able to occur, again, on property that's already owned by the county. Then we are planning on connecting the new building to the existing jail with an underground tunnel. If you remember reading the newspaper, we kind of got shot down by the the city commission of vacating Pine Street. At one time, we were going to put the building on top of Pine Street, preserve as much parking as possible, and get this closer to the existing building. Well, it was deemed that that wasn't practical or agreeable from the city, so we moved the building over, and we're going to put a tunnel underneath the street. So we're going to keep the street open, but we are going to relocate these utilities that are running down Pine Street, reroute them around Walton, or can't remember the name of that street. Oh, that's Pine, but that one, Myrtle. It's Quiz, Myrtle. Thank you. So we'll be relocating some of those utilities, and we have in our budget a little over $500,000 to relocate those utilities. We also looked at the option of a bridge over the street and keeping the utilities in place. But that bridge, it was real close to this, a bridge and a tunnel were close to the same cost, about $100,000 difference from each other. But the staff prefer the tunnel. It's deemed to be safer. It's probably in the long term less maintenance than constantly painting and repairing a bridge and things of that nature. So the tunnel is the preferred option.
So the tunnel, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
The tunnel will be transferring the inmates from the jail to the court?
Yes. There's two functions. One is that when we have arrestees here, we need to move them all over to the court. So we're going to take them into the tunnel, and there will be a holding area in the lower level of the jail for the courthouse. And then we'll move them up to the court floors when they're asked for. The other thing it does is we're going to move food from this kitchen to there's the housing on the second and third floors of this jail still. So we'll be moving food and laundry back and forth from that as well. This tunnel will not be used by any public. The public, basically the public space of this building is confined to this little red square right there. That's all the place that the public has access to in the building. Other than if you have business in the sheriff's office or something, you will then be escorted from that point into the sheriff's office. But as far as the jail is concerned, there's no need to go anywhere outside that space for the public. Yes, Mary?
Well, does the city of Muskegon know that it's costing about $1 million in order to keep that one block of Pine Street open?
Your county administrator has made that perfectly clear to them. And she is, well, there's this ongoing discussion. I think the city, when we met with them after the issue was tabled at the city commission, or plan commission, I guess it was, we came back and met with them later and showed them the plans, and they were very agreeable. And I think there may be some cooperation between the city and the county, but I have no idea what that might be. But I know the city and the county are talking, which is always good. Yeah. So that's the first floor of the building. So the parking will remain pretty much untouched next to the Hall of Justice. There will be some number of parking spaces displaced here across Pine Street. And as we get into the presentation, we'll show that there are many opportunities to make up that lost parking. This is the basement of the Hall of Justice, and these various colors indicate the various functions, various departments within the sheriff's office, staff services, detective bureau, patrol. We even have space for the emergency operations center in here. So there's plenty of square footage to accommodate all the needs of the sheriff's office between the basement of the Hall of Justice and the basement of the jail, and a little bit of space on the first floor of the existing jail. The second floors of the facility, this is the existing jail, and again, we're going to, all these walls and everything, with the exception of that one right there, has pretty much got to stay. It's a structural, it serves some structural function. But most of those walls are going to be taken out, and open dormitories, minimum security dormitories will be housed on the second and third floors of the jail. There is also, we're going to be adding classrooms. One of the things that we heard a lot of was we need more space in the jail for programs, all kinds of programs, from religious services to GED classes to drug and alcohol treatment, all of that, life skills. So there's going to be 2 classrooms located within the existing jail on those 2 floors. There's going to be 2 classrooms located in this housing pod over here. So there'll be plenty of opportunities that don't really exist now. Then on the jail addition across the street, we're proposing a 302-bed housing pod, which basically there's a control room in the center of the building and a series of cell blocks. You see this is kind of sliced up like a pizza here. But there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different cell blocks. And what that is 8 different, what they call classification opportunities. So you separate, obviously males from females, you separate your maximum security from your minimum security, you separate sentenced people from non-sentenced and so forth. Whatever the classification system is in the jail, we want the ability to have various types of cell blocks, various capacities. So we've got some cell blocks that are a single occupancy cell. With Michigan standards, we say we have to have 10% of our jail has to have single occupancy cells. No more than 40% of the jail can be dormitory housing, and most of that's going to occur in the existing jail. And then the rest can be multiple occupancies, and that'll be 2-person cells and 4-person cells. So we have a whole mixture of different kinds of housing for different types of inmates. And then above that vehicular sally port, we're going to put 2 indoor-outdoor recreation areas. And what these are is these are spaces that are probably about 2,000 square feet each, roughly 1,500, 2,000 square feet, with a minimum 20-foot ceilings. And they will have a roof over them, so they're truly indoor spaces. But there will be an operable section of a wall here, like a window opening, with a coiling overhead shutter that you could open it, you get fresh air and sunlight in, and while the thing is open, there'll still be a security screen so inmates can't get out. But that opening will allow sunshine, fresh air, and so forth, and yet the opening is up high so that people on the outside cannot see the inmates having recreation. So this serves as dual purpose. So when a day like today is, and nobody really wants to go outside on a day like today, those shutters are closed and it's an indoor recreation space. In a couple of months from now, when the weather gets nicer, they'll open them up and it'll be outdoor recreation space. But it's multiple function space. So we're getting as much bang for the buck out of here. And then again, because they are indoor spaces, these 2 recreation areas can also double as additional programming spaces for larger groups.
I have another question.
Yes.
You say that's the existing jail to the left, correct?
Yes. That's the second floor of the existing jail.
That's on the second floor. That's where the women's are now, right? Yeah, I think so.
I don't recall.
Yeah. But anyway, my concern is as we discussed before, is windows.
Yes.
Sunlight coming in. And how much sunlight will be coming in when we do that whole building?
A couple of things we'll be able to do in the existing building, because we're opening up, we're scraping out all those walls and creating larger spaces. There will be more daylight into more areas of the jail in the existing jail. On the new jail, every one of these cells will have a window, and then there will be windows on the exterior of the building as well. And one of the things that we're recommending to the county is the design of this. We recommend what we call a double envelope design. Because you can go into any town in any part of the country, and 10 miles away, you know which building is the jail. Because it has these little skinny windows, that's not what this is going to be like. What we're recommending is you're going to have a little skinny window in each of these little cells here, but the back wall of the cell is actually 4 feet inside of the building. So the exterior of the building can look like anything you want it to be. And it can be built of any material. It can be concrete, it can be brick and block, it can be metal, it can be glass, it can be anything you want, because the outside of the building is an environmental enclosure. It's not the secure perimeter. Secure perimeter is the back wall of the cell. And I've got some photographs a little bit later to show you how that works. So it gives flexibility in that every cell can have natural light, but there can be no visual communication between somebody in their cell and somebody out on the street. They won't be able to see each other because the windows don't line up with each other. You can get the daylight and you can look at the sky and you can look at various things, but you won't have the two-way communication that you have in jails like yours right now. And that's not, every one of that's, as far as the standards are concerned, every one of these cell blocks, all 8 of these day rooms here, will all have skylights in them as well. Because the standards say that we have to have a minimum of 12 square feet of natural light into every one of those spaces. So it'll be, the character of this building is nothing like your existing jail. And again, the 3rd floor of the building will be, again, gutted and turned into dormitory housing. And this is the part of the building right now where your kitchen is. And that part will become classrooms. There hasn't been any actual design started, but the phase that the county's in right now is planning and conceptual design. So they haven't hired an architect yet to do the actual design of the project. But we did some 3-dimensional renderings here just to give an idea of what this thing might look like. Again, push the wrong button. This is the Hall of Justice, our 6-story courthouse. This is the 3-story existing jail. This is the existing parking. And then this is the new addition, basically a 3-story building. And this is Pine Street. You can see where it's kept open. This rendering shows an above-ground bridge in lieu of the tunnel. This rendering was done back when we were debating which, bridge versus tunnel. Again, I think the direction of the committee is to not do this bridge, but do the tunnel, and the tunnel would run under the parking lot here. This right here is the new public entrance to the jail. This is where your vehicular sally port is now. So that thing will either be remodeled or removed, and the new lobby and public entrance to the jail will be here. So no longer will the entrance to the jail be off of Walton Avenue anymore. It'll all be off of this parking lot, which will make this real estate much more valuable than it already is. And then behind the jail, to the east of the new jail addition, the rest of the parking lot will remain. This is another view from the south. This portion of the jail right here, there's a kind of a loading dock service area here for deliveries of food and water softener, salt, and things of that nature, with access off of Myrtle. Another view, again, as I mentioned, these are all skylights on the roof. So each of these day rooms has plenty of skylights. And then these are skylights and some of the openings that will be in the indoor, outdoor recreation areas above the vehicular sally port down here on the 1st floor. Again, this entrance here off of Walton Avenue, as far as the public entrance, will be abandoned. This is a view of what that new public entrance to the jail might look like. Now, I have included, too, a couple of photographs. The photographs I'm going to show you are photographs of other jails that we've done that are just to show you the general character of the space. This is actually the floor plan from the Kalamazoo County Jail addition that's being built right now. And again, it's just a good 3-dimensional depiction of, here's your exterior of the building. Then we have the modular cells around the perimeter, and there's a 4-foot wide plumbing chase that runs all the way around the building. One of the general rules about designing buildings is if you design them to allow maintenance to happen, maintenance will happen. Think about old jails, 30 and 40-year-old jails, they just weren't designed with maintenance in mind. And the benefit of, there's like I said, a 4-foot plumbing chase running all the way around this. You can push a tool cart. Everything's exposed back there, and the maintenance people don't have to go into the cell blocks to do any maintenance. So you don't have to go lock everybody in their cell, walk in there, do your work. When you leave, remember to take all your tools and then release the inmates again. So this is just a lot, it accomplishes a lot. It's more energy efficient, it's more secure, it looks better, it's easier to maintain. The whole double envelope design is just a really good idea. Then in the center of this pod, this is an elevated control room, and this control room's elevated about 12 feet above the floor, and you're looking down into all these cell blocks. So as you'll see from some of the photographs, you'll see there are no columns in the way, there's no walls, there's no hidden corners, there's nothing. So from that control room, we have basically unobstructed views of the cell blocks. This is a photograph from the Bartholomew County Jail in Columbus, Indiana. Now, you're saying, well, it doesn't look like a jail, and that's exactly the point. It also looks like brick. It's actually precast concrete. But this is an addition to a jail that we did, and this is a good example that this is a 3-story building like your addition would be, and the cell block is about the same size as yours. So this is kind of a very good indicator of the size and potential character of your jail addition. This actually is an entrance to the work release facility on this building. This is a view of a typical cell block. As I mentioned in that pie, there's 8 of these things around the hub of the wheel, the control room. This happens to be a 24-bed cell block made up of 2-man cells. There's 2-person cells, there's 6 of them on the lower level, 6 of them on the upper level. You notice that the stairs are open risers, so if there's inmates standing behind the stairs, you can see. There's no blind spots. The tables and chairs are bolted to the floor, stainless steel tops, very durable, but still they're not, they still have some character, some color. So you can see there's plenty of space in the day room. The Michigan Department of Correction standards dictate how many square feet per person the cells are. It dictates how many square feet per person the day room sizes are. And this is common for basically a 24-bed day room. And this is a view of that same day room from that control room, elevated 12 feet above the floor. So if you're standing in the control room, this is the kind of visibility you have. And there's nothing like this in your existing jail. And this is a view from that same day room, standing in the cell block all the way back. And this is your control room. This is where Big Brother's standing, watching everybody in the control room. This is a video visitation booth. I know we've talked a lot about video visitation the past few months. This is video visitation here. It's in the day room, and we put a couple of these in every day room. We'll have maybe a couple installed in some private areas, so attorneys can consult with their clients and such in private and not necessarily in a day room. And then there's telephones. Televisions are mounted in there. This is what the interior of the control room would look like. And you can see through the glass what your visibility is from the cell fronts beyond. This is actually a photograph of an interior of a cell. This is actually from Kalamazoo County. In fact, this was just taken about a week or 2 ago. What this is in Kalamazoo is a modular cell. It's a steel. It's a modular cell built of galvanized steel, and the coating on this it's not paint. It's not epoxy paint. It's called a polyurea coating. For those of you familiar with those rhino lining truck bed liners they put in the back of pickup trucks, that's what this cell is coated with. So it's very durable. It's very easy to clean. One of the things you have a lot of diseases, bad things like MRSA and things like that running around. But you can go in and disinfect this. You can power wash it. Because of the coating, there's no cracks, no crevices, nothing for things like that to grow in. So it's a lot safer and more hygienic for the inmates and staff.
Where do the inmates, residents have their personal stuff? Their clothing?
There, you see these. That's a very